Thank you.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. We hear from Mike Vrabel in 1 hour, which I am sure is going to be an awfully jovial and exciting press conference after that brutal game yesterday. Titans lose it 19-16, and in 2 of the last 3 games, and back-to-back home games, the Titans lose to a divisional rival in overtime because you missed an extra point. And the extra point was not the only issue yesterday. I mean, that was maybe, item 123 on a long list of things that went wrong for the Titans yesterday. The Texans had no C.J. Stroud, had no Tank Dell, had no Will Anderson, and no Noah Fant. Missing probably half of their offensive starters.
Yeah.
You had a 13-0 lead. And you still blew it. And our friends over at the Music City Bowl dropped us off these beautiful bottles of Jack Daniels for Christmas. And this would have come in handy yesterday.
Yes,
while watching that Titans game.
I would have enjoyed having that yesterday, watching that game.
Mike Vrabel might have needed some of that
Exactly. Before, after, now, before they go out to practice, he needs a little bit of it all. This is what I was afraid of them doing is, playing, inspired, hair on fire type of game the week prior. Now, we can say, well, Tyreek wasn't there. They were missing 3 offensive linemen, yada, yada, yada. But yet and still, they went out there, and you saw the energy in the team against Miami. Fast forward to yesterday. They started with the energy.
I thought they started with a lot
early on, and it seemed like, okay.
They were feeling
it. This is not going to even be close. And then everything just hit a standstill. This team, and I know people could say, well, if we would have hit the extra point, it wouldn't have went into overtime. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was you went 5 for 15 on third down. You averaged 3.2 yards per play, and you got sacked 7 times. Oh, and by the way, there was only, out of every series, I think they had maybe, 8, 9, 10 opportunities, probably a little bit more. But in all of those opportunities, the first series of the game for you was the longest series that you had, 11 plays. Then you had an 8-play. That I think that one ended up a touchdown, the Will Levis touchdown. No, the 11-play ended up Will Levis. And then I think the other one ended up
first drive was the touchdown.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was 11 plays. Every other series that you had ended up with you either not getting the first down or getting the first down and then having to punt 3 downs later. You can't operate. You can't win football games. And this was the crazy part about it, is that I'm listening to, and I remember saying this yesterday on the pregame show with Jared and Chris. This team, just watch this team and watch how they operate. And, this is a team that when they're playing well, look at what Vrabel has done with the roster. He has all these backups playing. They're the most hurt roster over the last 2 seasons, yada, yada, yada. That's when they're winning. I mean, when he's doing such a great job. Look at over all the stuff that they overcame.
Look at how great Mike Vrabel is.
How great he is. But when they start losing, then they start, they don't have this guy. The offensive line is bad. That's why I said once the narrative nationally changed for Vrabel, that's when he needs to start being worried. But as long as the narrative doesn't change on the outside, then he's good, because they will always there's always a built-in excuse for Vrabel, a Vrabel coach team when they're losing. When they're winning, it's look what he's overcome the last 2 years. But when they lose against a team like Houston, it's They don't have this guy. Well, Houston didn't have their best players. None of them.
Yep.
Had none of them.
Case Keenum.
And now
throw the ball
they're
over
the ones.
you.
They're the ones now winning the close games. The Colts are now. They've got a little magic winning the close game. Can you believe it's 8-6, 8-6, 8-6? The Jaguars all of a sudden can't find a way to win, and they've come back to the pack.
Well, they've lost guys too, and they lost somebody else yesterday.
Right,
Ooh, that was horrendous.
So I guess all that to say, it's really life in the NFL. Is the razor's edge. Like, you can go back and look at the Titans seasons. They're sitting there at 5-9. I made a joking tweet that I don't think a lot of people thought was funny at the time. I said their hockey record would be 5-7-2, 4-0-2 at home. Like, in hockey, you would get a point for going to overtime. You know, that's how close it is. But think about how the season could be different, and this is at this time of the year, right? If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a great holiday or whatever. But they lost to the Saints on an opening day. Game could have gone either way. The call on the interception or the fumble by Carr could have changed the game. This is all woulda, coulda, shoulda. There's one game. Razor's edge. Could not have been closer. Of course, they've won a couple like that too. They beat the Chargers in overtime. That game could have gone either way for sure. But if you take that game, the two games against the Colts that were both right there,
both close,
very winnable, and then this last game, the old Vrabel teams used to win those games. But what the analytics people were saying, it's a tough way to live. You're not always going to win these close games. And right now, they just have not found – they are now out of that mojo of being able to find ways to win. And in the NFL – unless you're a juggernaut, and there's only probably 5 to 7 teams on a given year that really are better than the pack, your life is kind of going to come down to those kind of games, right? So they're not that far from being in the race, within a game of the division lead, which is crazy.
Willie, they are.
But you are what your record says you are, right?
You're 5-9. You're eliminated from playoff contention.
Right, and you can also it depends on how you look at it. It's like one of those rocks where you put it, in geology class. I used to call it rocks for jocks. I used to take the easiest geology class. But you put it under the microscope and you look and you see all these. You look at it one way, you're like, that's a pretty cool looking rock. Another thing, this is ugly. Like they're 5-9. You could also argue their record could be worse, right? They're not They're not a good team. They've had all kinds of issues.
They're a bad team.
They're not a good team.
They're a bad team.
But they're also not that far from. They scrape out these two games that they lost that they should have won, missed extra points, right? They'd be 7-7.
And they are what I consider. I was looking at this astrology thing, and it said such and such planet was 330 million light years from Earth. That's how far they are from being from having a winning record. 1,000,000 trillion light years.
But isn't that the mystery? This is what we love about the NFL, is because there's games like that every week. You're like, how is that happening? Why is that? This team's not very good, but they're going to be in the playoff. Like the Colts. The Colts aren't very good.
The Colts are good enough to beat the Titans. See,
I know.
But
they're not very good.
Listen,
they have no business
the
being
Colts
in there.
are a good team.
Right.
They're a good team.
Exactly. They're a solid team that has figured out how to keep the winning edge in a sense.
And they've played an easy schedule.
The Titans' schedule's been easy.
Not as easy as the Colts, I don't think.
But it's been easy. Again,
and it doesn't matter if the schedule is tougher or hard or tough or hard
or easy. The whole schedule
is
tough.
It's the NFL, and you're bad.
Yes.
And you are what your record says you are, and you are 5-9. Your best case scenario, absolute best case scenario, is that you tie for last place in the division. You've cemented last place, whether you are alone or whether you have company. If either the Colts or the Texans or the Jags lose out, which I don't really see for either of those three teams.
But the other part of this, and this is what I wonder how our fans, our listeners think, is because they're not very good, and we all agree on that, they're not a good team. They're almost better off losing these games. I keep coming. I go back and forth, right? Monday or Tuesday, I was like, oh, it's great to have the winning feeling, and I do think that's important. But at the same time, they're playing hard. They're not playing well, but just to barely lose, the upside is you are going to get what they desperately need, and that's the opportunity to replenish the roster.
Well, they hardly play well. Let's just say that.
But the Texans are on the rise. They're feeling good. They've got a good mojo going. They weren't going to blow the Texans out yesterday.
But the Texans,
they weren't that much better than the Texans.
Were missing their
of course
starting
they were.
quarterback,
but that's
their
a
2
team
starting
that believes.
receivers.
That's a team that believes they're going to win.
Their best defensive player. There was no. I'm not going to say no way, but there should have been a slim chance that Houston was even close in that game. You have your team, which is pretty much healthy. Mm-hmm. I understand the offensive line. But they're pretty much healthy.
Simmons.
But still, even without Simmons, they had fast 5 sacks and put pressure on Case Keenum. This team, it's an embarrassment because they didn't have their marquee players across the board. And you got to win.
And also, let's not forget that you put an extra target on your back when you wear those uniforms against that team. And that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that now the Texans can kind of rub that in your face, that we beat you with our 3rd-string quarterback, and we can kind of rub that in your face. But I think the thing that makes it, because you're right, Willy, now it's basically let's try and get the best pick that we possibly can get. I hate talking about that in December, but that's where we're at right now. I think it makes it worse. That loss, if we're just looking at the loss yesterday in a vacuum, because you had every opportunity to win that football game. And that one yesterday feels a little bit worse because now your quarterback's hurt. Because it was reported from Ian Rappaport today that Will Levis has a sprained ankle. I don't know if that's a high ankle sprain. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a low ankle sprain. Those two things are very different. Of course, we heard Will Levis say yesterday, like, it could have been much worse. But that also, just because it could have been much worse doesn't mean that it's really bad. And it could potentially leave Will Levis out for the rest of the season. The other thing that makes it frustrating is because that the offensive line continues to rear its ugly head. And it's something that we've been talking about since training camp. And Mike Vrabel has told us, starting from July all the way through this season, oh, no, there's too much being made about how bad the offensive line is. Oh, no, I would disagree that we can't block. Oh, no, we just can't get into drop-back passing situations. No! The offensive line was wretched. Horrendous yesterday. And Peter Skoronski, who is supposed to be at least the glass half full of that offensive line, he had a really bad day yesterday. And it got your 2nd quarterback of the season hurt.
But are we really surprised? I mean, it's the same guy.
I'm not surprised, no, but it doesn't make it any better. I'm not surprised, and that's what makes it frustrating. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised. You're not surprised. The head coach shouldn't be surprised. That falls on Mike Vrabel, and it falls on Rand Carthon. The other thing that was just so frustrating to me yesterday was continuing to run Derrick Henry on every single first down. 1st and 10, run it. 1st and 10, run it. The first couple of first downs, screen to Derrick Henry, gain of 3. Derrick Henry up the middle, gain of 2. Derrick Henry up the middle, loss of 3. Derrick Henry up the middle, no gain. Tajay Spears, gain of 1. Will Levis to Treylon Burks, gain of 20. And they never ran that play again. It was just consistently Derrick Henry up the middle, up the middle, up the middle, up the middle. And I think that you should do that to a certain extent. Continue to try to run it with Derrick Henry. But at a certain point, you have to throw your hands up and say, this isn't working. We have to do something different. What's the definition of insanity? What we saw yesterday from that play calling.
I mean, I understand. I'm not too much worried about, them handing the ball off to Derrick Henry in the first down, because this is what y'all wanted. Y'all wanted Derrick Henry to touch the football more. When we suggested that, no, maybe they should, take a little bit off his plate and give it to Tajay Spears. No, don't give it. You got to give it to Derrick Henry.
Don't be that
you
caller
got to give it to Derrick Henry.
Don't be that caller today.
You do need to give it to Derrick Henry to a certain extent. 20 touches for 9 yards.
But you can't go outside. This team isn't built, especially from the offensive line standpoint, to go outside of what they were doing. You gotta remember too, this team was up 13-0. Mm-hmm. So they're just trying to grind out the game. They're trying to keep the game in the phone booth, and they're trying to wear down Houston, and then bam, they get that big shot. But then they didn't do the necessary things. After the first drive, they had opportunities. They didn't take advantage of them. And when you get in this rhythm of, running a football and especially when the game's close, you don't want to try to do anything sort of outside of that, because you don't want to put your quarterback in a position knowing that the offensive line is not going to block that long. You don't want to put him in a position where, he's getting knocked around half the time, half of his passes. But that's what was happening. They were trying different things. To me, I text y'all, I was like, it's like they know their playbook. It was absolutely, no matter what they ran, especially after that first drive, no matter screen plays, runs up the middle, you saw those linebackers shooting those gaps on screen play. It was like Vrabel and Tim Kelly gave the playbook to Coach Ryan and said, this is what we're going to run throughout the whole game. Let us get our first series out of the way. Let us score. And then here, y'all can do whatever y'all want to. It was like they knew exactly. And I don't know who to put that on, because on one hand, yes, it is the coordinator. But on the other hand, it's, well, what can he really do as a coordinator when his offensive line can't hold up? There's only so many things you can do. And I know people, he was so predictable. You try being an offensive coordinator for that team and try to, design plays when you know your offensive line is not going to hold up nothing but 1 second, if that.
I thought that was a big part of it yesterday, but I see both. I was wondering why they just kept going back to the well. I would have liked to have seen that be a game that we've been talking about all year long. I'd like to see Spears get a little more. Henry a little. It was clear. D'Amico Ryans was like, we are not going to let Derrick Henry run this ball. We are going to be all over him, and they were. They were on him before. How many? They said like half of his carries he was hit behind the line of scrimmage.
9 carries for 0 yards.
Behind the line of scrimmage.
0.
At the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, 9 of his 16 carries.
And Spears, relatively speaking, was more effective. They never threw it to Spears after he had the best receiving game of his career on Monday. I thought that was a game where maybe that was where you try Spears as a different look, a little quicker. There were a couple runs where I thought something was there, and, you're one broken tackle away from a big play. And one big play yesterday could have meant everything. That was what in looking at Tim Kelly, and again, under the reference of, look, when you have no offensive line, your options are limited. It paralyzes your whole team. That's what happened yesterday. But Spears was the element that I wanted to see a little bit more of yesterday, especially on a day where it was clear Derrick Henry was not going to have the answers. It was nothing. There was not much he could do. They were scheming. It was a bad matchup, whatever you want to say. But they kept going back to it.
They made him look slow and old.
Right, and they threw him the ball in areas where he's not going to be able to do anything. Spears, on the other hand, in space, might be able to do something there.
Just switching things up, because I am the president of the Give the Ball to Derrick Henry crew, but there's also you're going to get to a certain point where, hey, this isn't working. We need to make adjustments. Where, hey, this is the long ball, it's working. Screens to Derrick Henry, they're not working. And then the Wildcat play in overtime just kind of felt like a last-ditch effort. This is really the only, trick that I have left in my bag of tricks. I want to continue to get back into our thoughts, but first I want to get it into your thoughts. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Scott is on the line. What's up, Scott?
Hey, the kicker missing an extra point. How do you miss an extra point again? But I'm wondering what the owner's thinking. She fired Malarkey after he went playoffs, and this keeps happening with Vrabel, whether it's him or whether it's his assistants. At the end of the day, it falls on the coach. And, I'm just wondering where the owner's head is in all this.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Scott.
I think everybody is wondering where, what Amy Adams is thinking at this point. I'm not sure she's at a point where it's fire Vrabel, because then again, I think that would be, if you wasn't thinking it last week, even after the win, then why would you think it this week after a loss? I mean, that's a knee-jerk reaction. Exactly. So I don't know where she at, but I'm sure at the end of the season, they're going to have a long talk. And how do you plan on getting this roster back to being a competitive roster? It needs to start with being a competitive roster first. And then we need to segue into a winning roster because, it's going to be a tall task to try to get this roster because this is not a winning roster. They got some guys that know how to win on this team, but as a whole, it's not a winning roster. They need to find out how do we piece together, a competitive roster and then a winning roster because it's going to take a few years. That line is not going to – you can't go get 5 or 4 All-Pros in one season. You can't. I mean, if it happens, great. But more than likely, you're going to be, sort of putting this thing together for the next couple of years in hope that as you're putting it together, you will accumulate wins and it'll put you in a position to get in the playoffs. But right now, that conversation needs to be had on how do we become a competitive roster because right now we're not even competitive.
Yeah, got it. They're lacking. They've got to be better. They need more weapons. They need more good players. When you start listing who are the best players on your roster, they need to beef that part of it up. So it's interesting. The Amy Adams Strunk perspective is a great question to ask because I'm sitting here as a person who wants to see them do well, but I'm on the outside. Mm-hmm. I'm in the mode of I can deal with it whether they win or whether they lose. I'm looking to see, are the young players getting better? Is the team still fighting and playing hard? That's more important to me than whether they win or lose. If they lose, that I can make the case that's just as good because your draft pick is going to be better. But if you're Amy Adams Strunk and you got the Oilers uniforms on, you're playing Houston, I know it's emotional, right?
Yeah.
You get and that's tough. But I think as far as Vrabel's concerned, if you, like you said, Derek, if you're going to say he's our guy after you pull off a Houdini act on Monday, then you can't just completely be ready to fire the guy. That's too much of a knee-jerk thing. But emotions are what they are. But I think he's going to be okay. I don't think we're going to hear a whole lot of Vrabel's gone unless all of a sudden the last 3 games they just lay an egg and don't show up. Right? That's what really hurts. Yesterday, look, they played hard. They're right there. They probably should have won. But you know what? They're at least still bringing something to the table to where at least there are emotions going on, right? The worst thing is apathy.
Right. The worst thing is having a fan base that doesn't care and a locker room that doesn't care. At that point, you have no choice but to clean house. But I do agree with Scott's point that a lot of this, if not all of this, falls on the coach. And look at the reasons why the Titans lost that game yesterday. I would say reason 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the offensive line. Well, that falls on Mike Vrabel and also Rand Carthon, but that falls on Mike Vrabel. If you want to have a larger role in roster decisions, that falls on you. I would say play calling is probably another one of the reasons why the Titans lost yesterday. That falls on Tim Kelly, which ultimately does fall on Mike Vrabel as well. It falls on the coaching staff. Mike Vrabel says it all the time. You are what your record says you are. You're 5-9, so that might say that you're not coaching very well this season. But I want to continue the conversation coming up next. I want to get back into your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Okay, let's give you the word about F&M Bank. And, I had a pretty good weekend. Pretty good weekend with our ticket to the bank. We always do that on Friday at 1:45 to end the week. It's great stuff, and it's sponsored by F&M Bank. And I've been telling you about these guys now for several months, and I hope you're getting the message because they've done some great work, and especially at times like this. As I've mentioned a few times, 6 locations in the Clarksville area. We know the weather, as it has many times before in Clarksville, unfortunately, has caused some hardship for some people. And this is where you need everybody's support, and F&M Bank really wants to be that support as your banking made easy on purpose. If there's ever a time you need your finances to be as simple as possible, this might be the time for a lot of people out there. Same thing in Hendersonville and some of the other areas in our listening area where F&M Bank is a presence in the community. That's what they really pride themselves on. So visit myfmbank.com and find the nearest location to you. There are 20 of them. Midtown Nashville on West End, downtown Franklin. I mentioned the locations in Clarksville, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, Franklin, Mount Juliet, Murfreesboro, Lebanon, Springfield, all right in your community. Banking made easy on purpose. F&M Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
I'm all right. Could have been a lot worse. It was definitely scarier in the moment than it was, but see what the trainers say. But feel all right.
That was Will Levis post game. Said, hey, yeah, it felt worse in the moment. It looked bad. And CBS didn't show the replay. And I thought, that might not be
You're
a
thinking,
great
well,
sign.
when they say that, at least in the experience that I have watching, and I have no data, right? But when they say we're not going to show you the replay, to me that's like Joe Theismann
It's
of Monday Night
ugly.
Football. Like
Yes.
they don't
Ooh.
want it's season ending.
Yes.
Right? So I'm in my mind, because they never came back and really resolved it after that, because what happened is they punted and it's overtime, the game's on the line. They almost ran out of time, right? I mean, I'm thinking this could be a tie. So they've got a lot going on, right? So they never went back and showed probably something for a Titans fan is the most important thing. How's Levis? So now in my mind after the game, not knowing until you hear that press conference is, did they cart him off? You saw some tweets like Tehran and some people were saying he was able to limp off the field, etc. They didn't bring the card out.
Encouraging sign.
Which, yes. So you go from that to, oh, wow, but it still looks pretty bad. And then you have Levis kind of saying, oh, not that bad. Just a flesh wound.
I would
So,
like to
so
see
where
how that
is
feels
it? Like,
today.
yes, I think we're going to learn. That's all where is it going to go in the next couple days? Wednesday, I think we'll have a much better sense of it. Is he able to practice, that kind of thing?
And I do want to get into your phones. But the question for me is, I would be surprised if Will Levis played on Sunday. Again, Ian Rappaport reported today that it's an ankle sprain. Now, a high ankle versus a low ankle sprain are two very different things, but even still, high or low, I would be surprised if Will Levis played on Sunday. I don't even know if we can expect to see Will Levis throughout the rest of the season. At what point does Mike Vrabel just say, you know what? We're just going to roll with somebody else for the rest of the season. But who is that somebody else? Who do you go with?
But don't you think D-Mase, he's got to play if he's able to play?
He
needs to play.
Yeah, if he's able to play, and there's not many restrictions, he needs to play. I'm not from the school of thought is, oh, no, we can't play him. He may get hurt again. You can't play like that. Just imagine, he got hurt. But then he's able to play this week, and he's like, I'm ready to go. I'm good. You see the bounce in this step, and you say, nah, we're just going to sit you because
we're going to hold you back.
Scared you're going to get hurt. You know what that does to his psyche? He's like, seriously? This is how you're treating me? Like, you're not even giving me an opportunity to go back out there, with my team and try to help them win.
And I think that's how he would feel.
Exactly.
But I also think that this offensive line is just that bad.
But, I'm not going to bench him so somebody else can get hurt. No, I'm not from that school of thought. I don't bench him because, if he's healthy to go, if he's good, he's playing. I'm not going to sit him to the side and bubble wrap him and then say, Tannehill go in, because Tannehill will be the first guy to go in. Tannehill go in. If I'm Tannehill, I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, yeah, I want to play, but y'all got to do some things different up front. I mean, we're going to be running the football, and everything's going to be max protection and throwing it down the field. No more 3 and 4 wide receivers. We're not doing that. I can't move as well as Will Levis. I'm a sitting statue, and then say you want to throw Malik out there. It's going to look even more embarrassing. So stick with the young guy if he can play.
I have a thought on that, but first I want to get into your phones. Brent is on the line. What's up, Brent?
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Anyway, I don't know why we're all sort of disappointed and frustrated when you really think about it, because, this game is a typical Mike Vrabel coached game, and it's been going on for 3 years. I'm getting back to more of the play calling, to where they will play like a semi-modern team for one half and throw the ball downfield and some of our really good players, make some, show themselves off of what they can do. Then you get into the second half, it's just like a switch goes off. And it's the same old thing, like you said, Caroline. It's like Henry for loss of 1, Henry for loss of 3, Henry for gaining 1. And it's been that way for 3 years, to where we will be competitive and sometimes have the lead, go into the second half and just go dead. And that's what's frustrating. And I think that's why Vrabel's got to go, because it's not going to change, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Brent. I just think you're so handicapped by this offensive line.
Well, yeah, but you knew that early on. You knew it early on that you were going to be handicapped by this offensive line. And this is why, things are going to have to change as far as offensive philosophy. And I don't... People are scared to let go of, the running prowess that the Titans have had, for the last 3 or 4 seasons, minus this season. Even though Derrick Henry is still on pace to, 1,100 yards, somewhere around there. But it's how he ran and how you were able to control the ball and how you were able to, exert your will and your dominance on a team. Nashville, if y'all want to win a championship as a city, you got to come out of this. I understand it. We were close to winning a Super Bowl under this sort of philosophy, but eventually we knew we were going to have to sort of we had to transition, and we started to transition, and we became a more explosive team. This team seemed like they're scared, and the fans are scared to say, let's take that step forward to becoming a more modern team. We can still run the football, but We got a quarterback with a strong arm that we like. We got a veteran receiver that doesn't seem like, he's still making plays. We got a young kid that, thank God, you finally gave him the damn ball. That's all I asked for. Give him the ball and see what he can do. And he did it. Burks, he did it. Then you got another young guy in the backfield that is a Swiss Army knife. He can do everything that you want him to do. But everybody still wants to say, get a ball to Derrick Henry. Get a ball to Derrick Henry. Get a ball to Derrick Henry. You're not going to win a championship that way.
This team can't win a game.
No,
win a game.
I understand that, but you got to be able to. And listen, Tim Kelly is handicapped right now. He's handcuffed, He's handcuffed right now. Because even if he wanted to do something, what y'all have put in front of him, Vrabel, this is not even Rand, but Vrabel, what you have put in front of him and around him isn't good enough. It's almost like you've put this stuff around him because you want to run the football. You want to have an excuse to keep on running the football. No, you got to be able to score points in this league. Houston went out and got what they need. Indianapolis believe they went out and got what they need. Jacksonville has what they need. That's just the teams in your division. I'm not talking about, look at all the other good teams. They throw the football. You have to be able to throw the football in this league. And the Titans, I'm not saying they can't do it. Well, this year it's damn near they can't. But it's like, no, we want to hold on to this, 3 yards or 4 yards in a cloud of dust. That's what we want to hold on to. No.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
I feel like they started the year. Remember, the very first week, we got into a big debate in the very first game of should Derrick Henry have been on the field more, touched the ball more, and we got into that struggle that they are trying to grow. They have been averaging 17 points a game, like we've been saying it. So they're trying to find that next level. And they also know that in the coming years, they're not going to have Derrick Henry, or at least not the same version of Derrick Henry. And we're going to get to his comments after the game because it just was a reminder they've got a big decision of what to do about him after the season. And that was going to be the case no matter what. So I'm a little bit more in the macro. I feel like I've been consistent. This wasn't supposed to be a loaded team. This isn't a team that you should feel like has grossly underachieved. We knew that if things didn't go right, this could happen. And it has happened, right? We feared about the offensive line in training camp. And this is what exactly it's played out like that. And they're 5-9 largely because of that, and they have all these other things that we thought could happen, and they've happened. And regardless of whether they scratched out a division title, which all of a sudden now it looks like maybe 9-8 or 10-7 would have been good enough, which is what the thinking was, right? This is the division you could win without a great team, and they went for it. And they're going to fall short of it. But they knew whether it was 10-7 or 7-10 or anything else, that the big decisions on Henry, Byard, which they've already made the decision on, and Tannehill were coming after the year. So I looked at a window that was closing anyway. So I've got a different viewpoint than I think some people, even after a frustrating loss like yesterday. And I'm looking big picture.
I think the difference is, like, you could have looked at it and said, look, this isn't going to be a team that's very good. The difference is we were told that they were trying to be good.
Oh, yeah.
That was the message
they made
from
those decisions,
Mike Vrabel and
when
Ram
they went and
Carthon
got D-Hop,
Adams
no
Stroke.
question. They thought they could win it.
They wanted to be good. And to the point about running the football, you need to run the football in this league. Look, Devin Singletary was the difference maker for the Texans yesterday, that they just ran all over the
But that's a team
Titans
that's handy. They didn't have their quarterback, so they were forced to run the football.
And even anyone. Look at the Bills. I think that the Bills are going to fall short of a Super Bowl until they find at least some resemblance of a run game. Look at the Steelers. The Steelers' offense was probably the worst in the NFL until Najee Harris kind of broke through and they found that second level to the run game. You need to be able to run the football in the National Football League. The difference for the Titans, though, is that you need to let the young quarterback work himself out of mistakes. You need to let the young quarterback break free a little bit. You need to let Will Levis throw it deep. I mean, the fact that pass to Treylon Burks, that 20-yard pickup, that was huge. That added a spark plug into that drive, into the entire team, and I felt like that carried them probably until the Levis interception. But I'm okay with that. If Levis makes those mistakes, He needs to learn from them. You can't just let him out. He makes the mistake and then pull him back in and just consistently run the football. You need to find some sort of balance. You need to add an extra element of the passing game.
Balance in this league is not 50-50. That's not balance. We scream balance and make it seem like, well, we need to have 25 runs or 25 passes. No, balance is just being able to do things in the game that you want to do. Yeah. If you want to run a football, you can run the football and pass the ball. If you want to pass the ball, you can throw the ball and run the football. That is what's called balance. Nobody after a game, it's 25 and 25. It's usually, 40 passes and maybe 30 runs somewhere around there, or 30 passes and maybe 25 to 30 runs somewhere around it. But it's never truly even when you're talking about a balance. It's what is working for us. If we can run the football, we're going to continue to run it. If we can throw it, we're going to continue to throw it.
They just continued to run the football. I don't need 50-50.
Because they couldn't throw the football either.
They couldn't do anything.
They could. We're looking at the big chunk plays, and even the big chunk plays, it was only when they rushed 3 to 4 guys. When they came after Will Levis, he had barely enough time to throw a check down. He didn't have the time, or let's say Tim Kelly didn't have the time to do some things he probably wanted to do. He probably was looking at his playbook like, okay, it's 3rd and 8. We can run this. Oh, we can't run this play. Gosh. Okay. We
cross that one off. Like I can see a lot of red ink. Like
exactly.
Take the red marker. Can't do this one. Can't do this one.
We can't just look at it as black and white as, okay, either you do it or you don't. No. It's I want to do it. I think we have the guys probably open, but we can't do it. I can't do it. So I'm not going to do it. So I got to revert back to, running a football or doing something, vanilla that's not going to get my quarterback beat up, even though he still got beat up. So we can't. That's why I'm not totally putting this on Tim Kelly, because he has what he has and he has to work with it. And some days it's working and you say, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. But majority of the days, or the majority of the Sundays or Monday when they play, it's not working.
And I do have to cut Tim Kelly a little bit of slack here. I mean, I've seen so many Titans fans calling for Tim Kelly's job. But
come on,
how much can he really do? It's the offensive line's problem.
If y'all know us, if y'all blaming the head coach, well, essentially what they're saying, for those that are saying that, they're saying it's not Vrabel's fault once again. It's Tim Kelly's fault. Let's fire Tim Kelly. You just fired the last offensive coordinator. So when is it ever going to be, in their minds, Vrabel's deal?
And also, you have to keep this in mind. You've got Will Levis, young quarterback. Unless the guy doesn't know what he's doing, it makes sense to keep the same offense. Don't throw him a whole new playbook, a whole new philosophy. You can't do that after 1 year. I don't think.
Exactly. No. Kelly,
I think he's been fairly sound based on what he's had to work.
Tim Kelly is a good OC. Tim Kelly is. I do believe Tim Kelly is a good OC. Just look at some of the plays that he runs, and you're like, wow, okay. Oh, okay. All right. I like that. Tim Kelly is a good play caller. But even when you're a good play caller, if you don't have good pieces to work with, you are reduced to a okay to below okay offensive coordinator.
Let's get back into your phones on this coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Teddy's Tavern this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. for our NFL pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 16 matchup against the Seahawks and give you the latest updates before the game. Our NFL pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Beast Unleashed.
Happy Monday, everyone. Hey, we are a week away from Christmas. Exactly a week away from Christmas. But, man, I need to tell you about Cool Springs MD. This could be a Christmas present to you, man, okay, to yourself. Okay, all right. So over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife, Daphne, along with that experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They're there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. So, there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. Man, again, Christmas is coming up, so you want to be at your best with all the energy in the world. So what are you waiting on? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458, or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Mike Vrabel will speak with the media in 10 minutes. We'll carry that live and in its entirety. But first, let's get into your thoughts, your reaction to the Titans' 19-16 overtime loss at home against the Houston Texans. Chris, Titans in Truth, is up next. What's up, Chris?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Hey,
Good
Chris.
afternoon.
What's going on, Chris?
Hey, well, I just want to give a comment. This is going to probably sound crazy even coming from me. What happened in Miami I thought was probably the worst thing that could happen because, again, what the Titans tend to do is fill us all up with a little bit of false hope just to, to build us all the way up, just to tear us down, and that's exactly what happened on Sunday. And everybody's talking about, want Tim Kelly out and Tim Kelly out, but here's the problem. If you do that, you had that issue last year. We had an issue with offense last year. You got rid of that offensive coordinator. We had an issue with the offensive line last year. We're having the same problems with different coaches, so it all equals one common denominator. This is all on Mike Vrabel, and people need to start realizing that, and I think a lot of people are afraid to embrace the unknown if we go in a different direction. People need to start realizing they need to start preparing for life without Derrick Henry, and I don't think a lot of fans have ever put that in their mind to realize that that's coming, and it's a shock to them. And so it's time to move on from Vrabel, because if Vrabel is still here, the offense is never going to change. It was the same with Downing. It's the same now with Tim Kelly. And like you said, D-Mase, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. He's handcuffed, and it's basically he's coaching under Vrabel's philosophy. And until Vrabel is out and we get a new philosophy, talking about a younger offensive mind, because I know people want to throw up Frank Reich, but I'm like, get a better offensive mind who can adapt. Look at Bobby Slowick with a third-string team found a way to win.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Well, I guess
okay.
Are you concerned with Levis, though, if you change the philosophy completely after 1 year? That would be my concern.
And I definitely understand that. Again, people, a lot of times people are afraid of going into the unknown, rather go with the one you know instead of the one you don't. But I think if you get with an offensive mind, you get with an offensive-minded head coach, that will help Levis, because he'll maybe have a bit of consistency even if things change a little bit. With a defensive-minded head coach, if an offensive coordinator does really good with Levis, that guy's going to get a head coaching job. Then you got to bring in somebody else who may do something different, and we'll have the Mariota situation. So I think that's why you need to go in that different direction, because if you stick with the status quo, it's going to ruin him at some point, because you keep changing. If you keep getting different offensive coordinators, you're going to have to keep learning new offenses anyway. So you might as well get an offensive guy, and it'll keep the same thing going, even if you bring in a different offensive coordinator with that offensive-minded coach.
Chris, great call. Appreciate you as always. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Man,
I understand I understand what he's saying. I really do.
But the thing about Miami and winning that game being the worst thing that could happen to this team, I disagree, because I think that it did so much for Will Levis's confidence and probably our confidence in him.
Yeah, I get it. But the caller is there's some truth to what he's saying. Because whoever has that offensive coordinator job, and he's right, if you got a young quarterback, and if that young quarterback shows promise, he's doing well, the offensive coordinator is not going to be there long. He's going to get up, and he's going to go on and be a head coach somewhere else. That's just the way, that's the way it happens in the NFL. You do real good as a coordinator, you're going to find yourself with a head coaching job sooner or later, unless your name is Eric Bieniemy for some reason. But if the head coach, which is in place, if he has that philosophy of this is what we're going to do, that will never change no matter who they bring in as coordinator, because he will always bring in someone that think like-minded like him. It's not bringing in a whole new system, because the system is not that much different from, when Ty Downing ran it. It's relatively the same system. They may be doing some things that are a little bit different. The way Tim calls it is totally different probably from the way Downing called it. I would say it is, because they look a lot better at times. So the calls will be different in how during the game, but I think the philosophy of what they want to do remains the same, and that comes from the head coach. He has a philosophy, what he likes, what he doesn't like. You work within his philosophy, you do your thing, but this is what I want to do. I want to run my big back. We want to make sure we give it to him. Or if you were, Andy Reid or something like that, it's okay, I have this quarterback and I have these guys, receivers, we want to get the ball. We want to be up-tempo. We want to get the ball down the field. Well, if you keep on changing coordinators, nothing changed because the head coach remains in place. His philosophy remains in place unless he's willing to say, you know what, let's change everything. So to me, I'm not saying that Vrabel needs to be fired. I'm not saying that. But he does have a point that no matter who you change with offensive coordinators, the head coach is still in place.
And if you continue to fire coordinators, it's going to get to a certain point where you have to look at the root of the problem.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not the coordinator's problem. Maybe it's the coach's problem. Speaking of the coach, we'll hear from him coming up next. Mike Vrabel will speak to the media. We will carry that live and in its entirety. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. Mike Vrabel's just up to the podium with a smile. It's a little bit of a surprise, so we'll send it over to Mike Vrabel now.
Mike, how is Will? Have you gotten test results back? And depending on his health, is it, do you have to weigh the fact that you're eliminated on whether or not you put him on the field?
Well, I don't think that necessarily weighs into, the decision right now. I want to make sure that, one, that he can protect himself, that he can do his job up to the expectations that we have, and that he, really the most important thing is that any player can protect themselves out there when, during a game. So it's Monday right now. He's sore, obviously, like a lot of guys, and we'll see, how things go.
Does it factor in maybe to a guy like Jeff or somebody like that who was expected to miss some time, maybe could have forced his way back in had you guys needed him for a playoff push, but now how does that change your...
Well, I don't know if I think everybody that's out is doing everything they can to get back until, we have to or decide to put them on injured reserve for which would, at this point in time end their season. So that hasn't happened. So I know that everybody that wasn't healthy enough to play in the game is doing everything they can to get back and realizing that, every snap is meaningful. It means something to somebody. And, so I wouldn't exclude Jeff from that or anybody else. If they can play, we want them to play.
Is Will's injury to what Ryan went through these last couple of years?
I think the mechanism is the same, as similar, and those are things that make it difficult, and those are things that come up as you're getting tackled or in a pile or anything like that. Yeah, just kind of same thing he has been dealing with.
I guess as far as run defense goes, how many missed tackles did you count, and do you?
Well, there was a handful, but there was also some. I don't want to, get this, but 3rd and 15, and they handed off for 14 yards. There was a couple of those 3rd down and long situations where some of those yards were had. There were some snaps on 1st and 2nd down and normal down and distances that weren't good enough, but then there was also, a lot that were. So I think some of the numbers, and again, I don't have a percentage, but there's somewhere on 3rd and long where they handed off and we're in a substituted defense. And, either way, it's got to be better. There were some missed tackles, and, we have to be better all the way around in all 3 phases.
What about on the interior of the D-line? Like, it seemed like a lot of the runs were between the tackles. What was happening there?
Well, the couple that were inside were, the 3rd and long where, Nico and Arden are playing on 3rd down. There was another, 12-yard gain backed up on the, 2-yard line that, went inside that, got to fit, get off blocks and tackle. And then there were some good snaps where they tried to cut back, and Marlon or Jaleel or Keandre or one of those guys inside were there.
At what point is determination to establish the run turn into stubbornness to do something that's been futile?
Well, we don't ever want to be stubborn, but also knowing that some of those things that allow us to gain yards downfield in the play pass game are also set up through that run game. And, so I don't think it's a stubbornness. We have to be balanced. We have to use those formations and those running plays, to set up some of those play passes down the field and, be able to, create good pockets for the quarterback so that they can deliver the football. So whoever's in there can step up and throw the ball downfield. Like we did a couple times yesterday and that we have done, in the past. And then we'll have to just try to stay as balanced as possible and let those things marry with each other.
The offensive line got a makeover in the off season, and it hasn't necessarily translated into better play. Do you need to maybe reevaluate what you look for in offensive linemen and how they play?
Well, we're just focused on this week right now, and we'll worry about and be as diligent as we can in evaluation at every position, in the off season. But, right now we're focused on and continuing to find ways to improve, and most importantly, find ways to win. And then in the evaluation process, that'll come after the season.
Mike, when you talk about the offensive line and are asked about the offseason, kind of always pivot every time, worried about the next game, or Paul asked yesterday about the offensive line and just talked about protecting as opposed to what happened in the offseason. Do you think that is the accountability for the fans about what happened with the offensive line this year that kind of dodging a little bit?
No.
With the offensive line, like talking to some of them, they said that it wasn't anything new that they saw, but they did have problems communicating and just picking up assignments. Is that something that, like, how do you handle the accountability for that? Is that the players? Is that the coaching staff, collective? How do you handle that?
It's all of it. It's every single one of us. It starts with me, and, we knew that this was a fast defense. Like, there's good players. You like to watch tape, Willy Collins and, Sheldon Rankins. Like, we knew where they were going to be, and if you're not good with your communications or staying, good on your combinations, they create penetration, which then makes you loose and everything else. So we've said this. Like, there's a call that goes in. At that point in time, it's on the 11 players on each in each phase to communicate, to work together with somebody, to identify the mic, to know your assignment, to strain, to do everything that you can to put yourself in a position to protect the guy with the ball, whether it's a run, whether it's a keeper, whether it's a play pass. Like, that's how it goes down, that the coach tries to give them as many details throughout the week and show them some things that are going to help them. And then you have to go out, and if there's new looks that you see, then you come over on the sidelines and you make adjustments, or hey, this is what's happening now. I know we had talked about this, but for the most part, they were pretty much, that was the structure that we had seen in the previous weeks.
When they're running 17 times for 12 yards on first down, is that setting up play action? Are people biting on that, or are they having a fine time stopping the run with what they have up front? Did it establish anything for you to do in play action?
Well, we hit a strike behind the linebackers, late in the game to Hopkins, so it must have done something. I mean, there was.
Was that trade-off worth it?
Again, we didn't win the game, and you have to understand that there's some of these play pass protections are also advantageous to allowing the quarterback to move the spot, to change his launch location, and give us an opportunity to protect, but also still run a route that we think is going to be good versus their coverage.
What's the trade-off there in terms of the frequent conversations we had about not being behind the sticks, when out of all of those first downs, you're coming out generally at 2nd and 10 or worse?
Well, that was, yesterday we've, done well, and, again, previous weeks of, our average gain on first down, whether that be running or throwing it, try to stay as balanced as possible, and also try to do, possess the football, try to find ways to win a football game, and it didn't work out yesterday.
Starts in how much freedom does Will have at the line of scrimmage, and has he exercised it a lot to this point in terms of getting you in the right plays? I think specifically I'm thinking of a couple instances yesterday where it looked like they were bringing run pressures and you essentially ran into it.
Yeah, and I think that there is some of that that we have to be able to expand on, or at least, can it and try to, maybe get it to the other side to give us a little bit better angle. And there's some, relief throws that we can make and things that are in there. And I think it's important just to, as long as everybody's on the same page between him and the receivers or him and the offensive line and what we're trying to do, that's what's most important. And, we'll continue to work on that.
Mike, what led to your Tart getting released, and did he ask for his release at all?
I think we can touch on some of those personnel decisions, at the end of the season. But, we're excited about the guys that are here now and working with them and moving towards them and, finding those guys that we can work with.
I say to all the guys, Mike, about finishing the season strong the right way after being eliminated.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be something I'll try to, make sure I'm consistent with when they come in here, on Wednesday, and making sure that, it's not too watered down. I don't know. It's new. Right? It's a new experience for me, so I'll have to give it some thought and try to, make sure that we're doing everything that we can to continue to try to teach them, to develop them, inspire the ones the best that we can.
Mike, are Derek's days as an elite running back in the NFL over?
I don't think that. I think that, that we understand that Derek's got a certain running style and a great skill set, and we have to be able to get him going and give him some space and get him to the second level. And he, in turn, has to be able to, help, the line, help the receivers, help the tight end. It all goes hand in hand. You don't just hand it to a guy and they beat three people. But there's also times where guys make a great cut or guys make a guy miss or Derek stiff arms a guy. So certainly after yesterday, nobody was good enough. Everybody involved.
All 7 sacks yesterday were in the second half and overtime. Was there something that they did that made an adjustment that allowed them to get there, or was it more breakdowns on that from the second half that didn't occur in the first half?
Well, they, 2 through 3 quarters. One came, down in the red zone. I would say that, we're trying to hit one. We're trying to play that we had designed from before, and, they didn't bite on it. Will probably waited it out a half a count too late, and it wasn't there. Would have liked for Jalen to block a little bit longer, but maybe we can help them out and just say, hey, they got us. They didn't bite up on, the fake. You go by case basis. There were some that, tried to throw the ball on 1st and 10 one time and wasn't open, so it was a sack. So, it's a lot of things. 3rd down, they show up 3rd and long, So it's just got to be, cleaner, with everybody involved, with the, how quickly we get open, the concepts that we're giving them, how quickly we get open as receivers, how long and how well we block, the quarterback's movement in the pocket, all those little things that, again, that all goes into it. I mean, yeah, there's times where we got beat, but there's also a play and a process to the entire operation.
You're currently starting 2 rookies on the left side of your offensive line that seemed to have a rough day yesterday. A lot of teaching tape there, and what's the message to them as they bounce back?
They'll keep working, they'll keep fighting, keep improving, try to, keep taking the little details, the technique, and, it's not easy developing young offensive linemen, but we'll, at this point in time in the season is what I'm saying with the amount of reps and, where they're at physically. But, working together is something that's critical, using length, not letting them get into your body, But and they had some snaps where they blocked them well too,
Do you think that last sack of Levis was a hip drop, and I wonder if you had any more thoughts on that? I know that I guess the NFL is looking to ban it next year.
Yeah, I don't have any. It was a sack that led to a player getting injured.
Interception and how the corner kind of came off of Burks on the deep route, and he had an alert, but he threw it to Hopkins. How do you take him through that whole process of, okay, I know Hopkins is a guy that you want to throw it to, but, you know, look at other options as well?
I mean, I think just, you know, there's a primary, and there's obviously things that you have to do before you throw it there, and make sure you're looking out in front of the crosser, and, you know, understand that you have time there to set up, and, you know, we're trying to protect you to get to the edge and allow you to set up, and, you know, maybe by doing that he would be able to see Traylon. I know that he stayed on the move and, you know, thought he had hop, and, you know, it's, you know, we got to do a better job of protecting the football.
When it's all about winning, how frustrating is it for you, like on Sunday nights, when you've lost overtime games at home when there was a missed extra point involved?
Well, whether you miss an extra point, whether you don't intercept the football, whether you throw an interception, all those things contribute. Whether you have a penalty, you know, on a punt that's backed up, like there's a bunch of plays that contribute to that. I would say that losing is devastating. You know, it's you know, again, the players put a lot into it. You know, they play hard. You know, being close isn't good enough. Everybody feels better about the work that you put in when you win, and you want the players that go out there and work for you and play for you to have success. You want them to feel that, you know, and then their bodies don't hurt so bad, and they come to work, and then we all come to work.
You might be two PATs away from two more wins. They thought about that in terms of how close you are to a different story?
I think about a lot of things, you know, so can make points up other ways. You know, Nick's been really good for us. I'm sure he'd like to have that kick back yesterday. Would like to have a lot of things back.
How this week's or these next 3 weeks are kind of a new experience for you as a head coach. How difficult do you expect it, or do you expect it to be difficult to keep the same messaging and kind of keep
well, I don't know what the messaging is going to be. You know, it's just, you know, we'll figure that out, and we'll get them as prepared. We'll figure out who's available, who we need, you know, to make sure that you know, our guys are ready once we determine who that's going to be, to make sure that they're ready and that they all prepare as starters. And you know, a lot of these guys are just getting their first opportunity of playing with us or playing with anybody.
Challenge, like keeping the morale where it needs to be in these last 3 weeks?
You know, rely on the assistant coaches, rely on our leaders, be great every day, don't be phony, you know, be as authentic as possible, and keep teaching them the things that are going to help them.
You talked about guys and how much you expect out of the defensive line because of the money that you pay those players. Using the 11th pick on Peter, are you disappointed with where his play is right now?
No, I think Peter's been working hard, and you know, again, the player evaluation. You know, we're putting a team together, and Peter works. Peter's improved. Not sure what the first part of your question had anything to do with Peter, but we're just okay. We all have high expectations. That's the nature of this business, and we understand that, and we need to continue to raise expectations with whoever's out there.
Without a playoffs to coach for, I guess now, or these weeks that I guess you have to rely on why you got into coaching in the first place, and competitiveness and love for the little things within a season?
Well, certainly love football. I love helping players. Remember that. Remember why you got into this, and watching them improve and have success, and you know, you know, embracing their competitive spirit, and making sure that that we're doing everything that we can to put them in the best positions to go out and enjoy it and enjoy it from, having success and winning and making plays. And, it's a fine line each and every week.
Do you use these last 3 games maybe to take a look at guys like Caleb Murphy or Otis Reese and some of them beyond maybe just special teams?
I mean, potentially, but, not ready to answer that,
If Will can't go, is it simply Ryan, or do you have to consider Willy?
I don't think, Ryan would, we'll see where we're at based on Will's health, and we'll keep you updated.
Any idea if Murphy Bunting's going to miss any time?
I'm sure every player that didn't finish the game could probably miss some time, and he was one of those players. So we'll have to be ready for where he's at Wednesday at practice and moving forward. But, when you're not able to finish, then you have to, then there's always concern. There's guys sometimes that finish the game and then come in with something, and then there's guys that leave the game. So I know that he wished he could have tried to finish, but that wasn't going to be a possibility.
You're understanding that the full review will come at the end of the season, but yesterday there was some finality knowing you can't make the playoffs. When you went home last night or came in this morning, is there some, theme that you think about of why this season is where it is right now, earlier than you expected?
No, we're focused on, I appreciate the question. I do. I just we're focused on what we have to do today, on who's injured and how they feel and how many guys are sick with the flu and all this other stuff. That's my focus, is not, going back and, and evaluating that right now.
There's 2 more home games left, and you're eliminated from the playoffs. You talked about high expectations. What would be the team's message to the fans about the 2 home games to finish out the season and the belief in the program going forward into future seasons?
Well, I think the belief going forward, we can always discuss that. I mean, when our guys play hard, if you feel like our guys loaf consistently, I mean, obviously there's a lot of snaps in the game. We can all pick them out, but when we take the ball there at the end and 3 negative plays on defense that, from guys that maybe have been here on the practice squad or just got here, and obviously playing with great effort is going to rally, a fan base. Winning always is going to be the forefront of what we do. And if we can, eliminate some of the plays that are going to get us beat, and, there's still good football in there. There is. It's all over the place. We go down, we convert a 4th and 1 on first drive of the game, hit a couple X plays, 3rd and 10, they jump off sides, we snap the ball, Will looks for the flag, we throw it down there to the 2-yard line, and we score. Like, that's what good football teams do. But then there's just, there's the plays that, aren't consistent enough and not efficient enough defensively. Get an interception, get a 3rd down stop, but then we give up some plays that cost us. Special teams, we do a good job. We're protecting a punter and get a penalty at a critical time in the game. So there's a lot of good in there. And again, I know that this sounds like it sounded a couple weeks ago, but unfortunately there's just a lot of too many examples of the bad football that ultimately you can't overcome. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, there you go. That was Mike Vrabel. A lot to unpack there, but what I want to get into coming up next, some updates about Will Levis, and if Levis can't go, then who? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Mike, how is Will? Have you gotten test results back? And depending on his health, is it? Do you have to weigh the fact that you're eliminated on whether or not you put him on the field?
Well, I don't think that necessarily weighs into, the decision right now. I want to make sure that, one, that he can protect himself, that he can do his job up to the expectations that we have, and that he, really the most important thing is that any player can protect themselves out there when, during a game. So it's Monday right now. He's sore, obviously, like a lot of guys, and we'll see, how things go.
That was Mike Vrabel on Will Levis. It was reported this morning from Ian Rappaport that Will Levis is believed to have a sprained ankle. He'll get an MRI today, so I'm sure we'll get more updates on Will Levis's condition after today, maybe at Mike Vrabel's Wednesday press conference. But that's the thing, is if Will Levis isn't at full mobility and he can't evade pressure, I don't want him out there. But if not Levis, then who? Mike Vrabel was asked, hey, if it's not Levis, is it Ryan Tannehill? This is what Mike Vrabel said.
If Will can't go, is it simply Ryan, or do you have to consider Willy?
I don't think, Ryan would, we'll see where we're at based on Will's health, and we'll keep you updated.
We'll see where Ryan's at. We'll see where Will is at.
He didn't finish the sentence, which made me think about a conversation we've had, Derek, about Ryan Tannehill and where he is in his career. Ryan Tannehill is looking around the league and seeing all of these guys play. Nate Mullins, Josh Dobbs. You go down the list, and there's new guys every week playing. Ryan Tannehill, there will be a good market for him. He doesn't want to go in there as a health concern, I'm sure, personally. So it sounded to me like it was, I don't think we're going to play Ryan. That's if you could finish the sentence.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering if he was going to say.
Yeah,
but that's just me guessing.
And he probably doesn't want to say it today.
No, he's not going to make. He doesn't have to make a decision today on who's going to be the quarterback this Sunday. They're going to evaluate it, allow Levis to get himself some treatment and see how the ankle is come Wednesday when they first get back on the football field, and then ultimately Thursday and Friday. And if he's ready to go, then he's going to be the guy. But
Who would you play if Will can't go?
I play Malik Willis.
I would
because my thing is this. I may want to play Ryan Tannehill, but if I made Tannehill the starting quarterback, Tannehill is not going to say no. He's going to go out there and play. But if I'm Ryan Tannehill and I'm his agent, I'm like, I don't want to play behind this offensive line. These last 3 games ain't going to mean a hell of beans for me going into free agency. Actually, it may hurt my free agency because I might get injured again, or I just can't operate the way I need to operate as a quarterback. So if I'm him, I'm like, nah, thank you, but no thank you. I don't want to go in. You see what do you see that offensive line? Do you see that hazard in front of me? You think I want to go in there? And y'all ain't, if y'all want to, redo my deal and add some more years and give me a bunch of money, yeah, I'll go in there. But right now, my deal is expiring. Y'all are not keeping me. Don't even ask me to quarterback this team because we're out of the playoffs. I would understand if we were still in the hunt for a playoff.
That would be a
totally different.
Right.
Yes, but we're eliminated from the playoffs. This offensive line is bad, horrendous. Why would I want to come back again?
And that was the second or third question in there because it had to do with Jeffrey Simmons as well. And Mike Vrabel said all of the guys that are injured are fighting to get back to where they can play. And if they can play and protect themselves, I would expect them to play. But I don't think it's that simple when you are out of the playoff race. I think it's a legit question.
You have to
and
think
I
about
would
the future.
say for Jeffrey Simmons specifically, if we're using him as an example, if he's not 100%, I would think twice, even if he came in there. Big Jeff, he wants to play, right? He wants to be out there with his guys. He's on the edge of the field, right? He's right there. It's not in uniform, but he's cheering the guys on. He is all up in the game. He's a competitor. He's a leader. but I would not want him in there. I want him to be healthy to start next year. That's how I would feel about it, and I have seen in other sports teams take that approach. Baseball, definitely hoops, definitely hockey, where if you're out of it, you say, look, I know if our season was on the line, you would be in there. But we're not, and I know you want to play, but I want you to be thinking about down the road. You're a part of our future, and I don't want you to go into this offseason with another health issue here or make it worse.
It's the what's the point factor.
Right.
Remember last year, the Cowboys game, Derrick Henry didn't play that game. Jeffrey Simmons didn't play that game because the what's the point factor was just too high.
It didn't mean anything.
Josh Dobbs quarterbacking this team, beating the Cowboys doesn't necessarily do anything to help us make the playoffs. Let's just try and win the game, and if we don't, okay, fine, we're going to rest everyone before the gotta-have-it game against the Jags. The what's the point factor, I think for both Levis and Jeffrey Simmons, you have to consider it. I know both of them want to play. And it pains part of me because I have so much fun watching Will Levis play. But what is really the point? What's the risk versus the reward? But if it's not Levis on Sunday and even moving forward, I'm with you, D-Mase. I play Malik Willis. You know what you have in Ryan Tannehill. You likely won't have Ryan Tannehill next season. Yes, Ryan Tannehill gives you the best chance to win. But winning, I don't think, is necessarily priority 1A for this team right now. You're out of the playoffs. If you want to win games, then great.
Yeah,
but I think that you need to continue to see what you have in Malik Willis because who's your backup next year?
Yeah, you don't have, as of now. I mean, he would be the backup, but you want to see, what you have, or not necessarily what you have, but has he progressed as a quarterback? I know he hasn't played, but has he been able to do enough classwork in watching that once he get underneath center, some things may now click with him because he had an opportunity to sit back and just watch even more. But I'm afraid even if you put Malik Willis in there, that may cost him his job because it's going to look very ugly the next 3 games with Malik Willis at quarterback. And I like Malik Willis, the person, and I think he is, I think eventually he can be a backup in this league, but you put him out there in front of that offensive line.
It's not going to look good.
It's going to look really bad.
You might lose by 50.
Really bad. It's going to. Derrick Henry can't run the football. You can't block. And then the quarterback has a hard time at reading the field. Yeah, it would be real ugly. Really ugly.
And that's something I had.
So they're in between the rock and the hard place right now.
This is again where you have to be on the same page with your owner, and publicly, at least through the reports, Amy Adams-Strunk has said, Mike Vrabel, I believe in him. He's going to be the coach. I'm not trading him. Or all of whatever came out of the Diana Rossini thing, because I do think you have to be realistic as you communicate with her. And he said publicly they talk a lot. I think you got to say, Amy, look, we got a situation here. My offensive line is struggling. I've got an injured rookie quarterback here that I don't want to put in harm's way here. Here's the situation with Tannehill, right? But I think you have to be real. These last games may not look great, and if so, we got to keep this in perspective. Hopefully she's on board with that because you're right. In a worst-case scenario, they could look bad, and that's when you would have a lot of people howling and saying, it's Vrabel's fault. No, but I think we got to be real. These next 3 games, they're out of it. You want to see them keep playing hard with whoever does suit up, but it may not look pretty.
I think the Amy Adams-Strunk perspective is an important factor here because even though they're out of the playoffs, you don't want to be embarrassed.
No.
Mike Vrabel doesn't want to be embarrassed. This team doesn't want to be embarrassed. I mean, Mike Vrabel said it several times. We're just trying to win games. It's easy for us to get up here and sit in front of a microphone and say, well, you're out of it, so you may as well just throw these games. May as well just see what you got.
You
and
can't
Otis Reese and Malik Willis.
You can't do that. But you want to say, look, we're going to play hard. But we don't have the horses right now.
But Amy doesn't want to be embarrassed, and I think she got embarrassed yesterday that you went out there with the Oilers uniforms on and Mike Vrabel walking in with the Bum Phillips cowboy hat. And you put out that performance.
But they played hard, though. They played very hard yesterday. They didn't play well, but they played very hard, and it was competitive against a team that is playing for a playoff spot. I think that's important, right? I know we look at the Texans and we're like, they're not that great. They got these guys hurt. But that was a team that was playing for something yesterday, and the Titans matched them in terms of intensity and heart. They did not check out. I have seen Titans teams in the past, and I will give you one that pops right in my head. They played a game at Jacksonville. I think it was Pac-Man Jones' rookie year. It was a bad year. It was D-Mase, you were gone.
Yeah.
You were gone. You were with the Ravens, and things were going well with the Ravens. But they looked horrible. They mailed it in at the end of the first quarter. It was over. It just they didn't show up. They showed up yesterday. So I think that's important because you'll see what it looks like if they don't show up. Because then it will be 50-0. Because that is what happens if you don't show up in this league, especially if you're playing against a team that's got something to play for. So there's different types of embarrassment, frustration when you lose a close game. But at the end of the day, my team's fighting. My team is playing hard. They didn't mail it in.
But that might be a tough sell to an owner. That intensity and heart is great, but intensity and heart don't pay the bills.
You can't control how one person feels. The owner is that's the thing. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to separate what I would think. I like that they are playing hard and they're not mailing it in because I feel like that happens to a lot of teams. They just check out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't expect this team to check out. I think that's why the move to release Tier Tart was, I think, a move they felt they had to make because it had the potential to disrupt the locker room and disrupt it even more. They were and they evidently they lost, but you don't want that that player being disgruntled over a contract situation. In the locker room in the sense of we're losing and it's one problem compounded by another problem and it just starts to, bring things down. So, I mean, they got 3 games left. I don't know what the hell they can do other than, if you enjoy playing this game, and Vrabel said it, you just got to remember the why. That's all I can, as a coach, why are you coaching one? Why are you coaching this game? Because you know once you get into this business, there's going to be some great moments, and then there's going to be some moments that it's just like, God, I don't even want to go outside. It's been so bad. But you always got to remember the why. Why am I coaching? And then players, remember, why are you playing this game? It can be for a contract. It can be because you love it, whatever. Figure out your why. Hold on to that why. And as long as you have that why, that's going to go out and give you that whatever you need to play hard and physical. I'm from a school of, I don't care if we're 0-19 or 19-0. I'm still playing the same way. I'm still giving the same intensity. I'm still giving my all, practice and in the game. So I don't understand, if it does happen where guys just start, I don't know how to comprehend that because that's not my makeup. And I'm sure on that team, they have guys with that makeup. Like, I know we're out of playoffs, but we're playing next Sunday, so we got to go out and play hard, fast, and physical, regardless of what's going on. I believe they have enough of those guys on the team than not. So hopefully that'll help them out. It may not equate to a win, but like Willie said, they played hard. You just hope they continue to play hard.
Right to your phones on this coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Happy Monday. Hey, if you bet on the games this weekend and you won or lost, I'm sure, and I know because I've been talking about this for a while now, I'm sure you did it with Zen Sports. And there's a game tonight. So you need to play And you need to bet on Zen Sports again, people, okay? So I'm going to continue to tell you about our partners because I'm excited that they've launched their new introductory promotion available to all new customers in Tennessee. It's the No Danger First Wager. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First Wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched a new VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you might qualify, then listen up, people. This VIP program is by invite only, okay? Invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualify for VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sportsbook will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for, people? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today, right now. The game is tonight, so do it now so you don't forget. Zen Sports. Betting just got better. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Say tomorrow between 9 and 11 a.m., Chase and Big Joe will be giving away tickets to see Kenny Chesney and Zach Brown Band at Nissan Stadium on Saturday, August 3rd. I want to go to that. Each weekday winner will also qualify to win a $250 Electronic Express gift card. Tomorrow morning between 9 and 11 a.m. with Chase and Big Joe. Let's get into your thoughts. Your phone, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Everything is on the line. Your reaction to the Titans' 19-16 overtime loss to the Texans in Mike Vrabel's press conference. Cam has been waiting very patiently and is next. What's up, Cam?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So I agree with Willie. I don't think bringing in an offensive coordinator would change everything up. I think the offense that we run now is the closest to what they ran in Kentucky, which is beneficial to Willis. At the same time, though, D-Mase, you got to back me up here. Tim Kelly's got the hardest job in the NFL. Because out of, let's just say, for example, he's got 200 play calls. Probably half of those are handicapped because he has to decide which ones are going to get blown up by the line. And he has to decide who's going to get hit. And would you want your King Henry to get hit, or would you want your rookie quarterback to get hit? And even then, he still got hit 7 times. And more than that, I'm sure. And I just don't understand how because Tim Kelly, I feel like he's been doing a great job, a fantastic job. The only issue is the offensive line will fold at any corner at any time. And I just don't you're having to keep up with down and distance, the motions of the game. And now on top of that, you have to deal with, let me guess which side of the line is going to fold on this play.
Yeah. Thank you for the call, Cam. Appreciate it. That's the tough thing for me. My response to Titans fans saying, get rid of Tim Kelly, fire Tim Kelly. He is so handcuffed by the offensive line that should he have called probably fewer runs on first down yesterday? Yeah, I think you could make that argument. But also the offensive line couldn't run block, couldn't pass protect. They couldn't do anything. I do agree with the fact that Tim Kelly might have I'm not going to say the most difficult job in the NFL, but he's got a tough one.
It's challenging.
Mm-hmm. It's a difficult job. The offensive line couldn't walk and chew bubblegum yesterday for some reason.
And the disappointing thing was I thought they were making some gains.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not anything to write home about, but it was they were giving themselves a chance the 2 weeks before that. And yesterday was a revert back to what we saw in the games in Jacksonville and in Tampa, where they got to that point where they couldn't run anything. They couldn't run an offense.
Yeah, people. I mean, the fans just got to understand you can't keep on going on this, revolving door. One offensive coordinator in, another one out, another one in, another one out. Ultimately, you got to look at, one, the players, and then what is the head coach and the GM doing to surround you with good enough players on offense. I think Tim Kelly is a good play caller in this league. I really do. He's shown that he can be innovative. He's shown that he can stay ahead of plays. But when you don't have the tools you need to work with, it's like asking a carpenter to do his job, but you're giving him a spoon and a fork and a soup, a big soup spoon, and say, okay, go ahead and do your job. It's like, I know what to do. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's Tim Kelly. It's like, I know what plays would work, but I can't do it because I got a bunch of spoons and forks and I need some hammers. And I don't have any hammers. So fans, get off of Tim Kelly. The blame should be pointed upward to the head coach, not laterally to the offensive coordinator. Don't stop doing that. Stop giving him a pass. Do I think Vrabel's a good coach? Hell yeah, I think he's a good coach. But what's going on is a part of his problem. He's a part of the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to blame, again, I am not going to blame Tim Kelly for none of this that's going on because he had nothing to do with it. He's the offensive coordinator. He's working with what he has, And he's trying to put these players in the best position he could possibly put them in to succeed, but it's hard to do that when the one area that you need to at least hold up, it's not doing any of that.
Yeah, and it's disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the area of your offensive line that was supposed to be a beacon of hope for this team, the 11th overall pick, he had a rough day yesterday.
That's one again where I have given a lot of thought of okay, how much is on him and how much is just we're asking a lot when there's just not much on either side of you. And there were a lot of times, and I also thought he was not 100%. I thought he got banged up early in the game, and I'm trying to factor that in as well. And he didn't use that as an excuse, but remember, he did go down early in the game. I was checking to make sure he was staying in the game. So I don't know.
Or he came out. I think he came out of play, or he ended up staying in. They may have taken a timeout.
He went down twice early in the game and finished the game. So it wasn't his best game. But if you're just all over him and you think he's a bust all of a sudden, I'm not ready to go there at all. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's not a bust, but
I think he's a good player.
It's hard when you're watching the offensive line. It's a little bit easier to notice, the tackles doing good or bad. It's easy because a lot of times they're on an island by themselves, and when they get beat or when they pancake somebody because it's in full view. But for the guard, it's a little bit different because there's a lot of combination blocks in there. There's a lot of communicating with either the tackle or the centers. Like, okay, I got prime example. We talked about it off here when the big fella beat both he and Duncan straight up with a bull rush. He beat both of them, pushed him back.
He pushed him like a revolving door, like it was easy.
But I'm sure the design of the play was, let's start on the double team and guard. You're able to sift off to the linebacker. You tackle, stay on your defensive tackle. That's your guy. I'm helping you so you can set your position and then push him down. Well, Peter, I believe, did the right thing, but Duncan didn't. But then that makes Peter look as if bad. Exactly. Yeah. That makes it look like who was it? And if we don't know who it was, then it was both of their fault.
Whatever. It was bad.
It
was bad. It was awful yesterday. That might have been the worst offensive line performance all year long.
It was, but I heard. Look, Jared asked some very good questions in there at that press conference. But if one of his things is Skoronski's not that good, I don't buy that. I feel like Skoronski is progressing as a good player. Maybe a step back yesterday in a tough deal, but I would like to know from somebody on the inside, was he banged up in the game? Because when a guy goes down on the field and can't get up and gets middle, he's dealing with something, right? He's able to continue. That doesn't mean he's not trying to play through what looked like a lower body thing of some sort. I couldn't tell exactly what he was dealing with. That's a lot on a guy's shoulders. So that is that a film he's going to say, this is one of my best games, people. Watch this. I'm an upcoming star.
No.
Not at all. But there's a lot that he's dealing with there. He is one of the least of their problems, I think. It's the guys, they got to get other guys. Like you said, D-Mase, they need two more guys. They need two rocks.
Exactly.
To stabilize the line, at least. But realistically, give me two guys, and I think.
Give me a tackle in the center, and we'll be
Skoronski
fine.
We'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
And I don't wish injury on anyone. I almost hope that there's something going on with Peter Skoronski, just so there is some sort of explanation as to his steps back that he took yesterday. Because I think he had a bad day. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he had a bad day. And I
but you saw him go down, right? I'm not making it up. Twice.
No.
Yeah.
There was one in particular, I think it was in the first half, that you saw him on the ground wincing. And he was
I wasn't sure he's coming back.
He was slow to get up, yeah. All right, I want to get back into your phones on this, but first we're going to chat with TD, Teron Davenport, coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, tomorrow is your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night, then you will win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Rexroad tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. Pick to Click brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. List your home with TJ to get your home seen, heard, and sold. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. TD, Teron Davenport, will join us shortly, but before we get to TD, we were just touching on Peter Skoronski. And Jared asked Mike Vrabel the question, essentially, you have high expectations for a first-round pick. He's 11th overall pick. I understand the perspective of, look, this is a bad offensive line. He's got a rookie left tackle next to him. He's got an undersized center to the other side of him. He's got a really difficult job. Like, he's not getting a whole lot of help around him. But I understand the argument of, look, he's the 11th overall pick. He was a left tackle in college. You put him at guard because you said that that's where he's best used is at guard. And we said before, you're going to put him at guard, you better be a pretty darn good guard. And Peter Skoronski wasn't a very good guard yesterday. I am willing to give Peter Skoronski the benefit of the doubt for the game yesterday, because yesterday was bad. That maybe he's dealing with something injury-wise that he sustained during the game when he went down early, or Mike Vrabel mentioned the flu. Aziz Al-Shire was dealing with the flu yesterday. Pretty good game for somebody who's dealing with the flu. Iconic flu game. I'm willing to give Peter Skoronski the benefit of the doubt for yesterday. But for the sake of the future of this offensive line, you're going to need more from Peter Skoronski moving forward.
Yeah, you're going to need more from everybody on this team that's going to be on this team next season moving forward. It's not just Peter. I look at Peter from this standpoint, whether he was drafted 11th, which he was, or 21st or 25th.
He's a first-round pick.
He's still a first-round pick, and the expectations for a first-round pick is to go out there and show that you're getting better each and every game, show that you're picking up on the game. You're going to get beat. The best ones get beat, but show me that you can come back and learn from whatever mistake after you've watched the film. Go and learn, work on your technique each and every day. Again, Peter Skoronski is the least of my problems because he's going to be here next year. The thing is that the problem is the things around him. Put him a better left tackle. Get him a beefier center. Okay, and watch how much he transform as a player. Because if I'm good, you should get good. If you're good, iron sharpens iron. You get him a left tackle that can be a franchise left tackle, and you get him a center, a veteran guy that maybe is in his 8th year, 7th year, that can give, sort of like Ben Jones when they brought Ben Jones over. I think Ben was in his 6th or 7th year. They bring him over, and Ben helps solidify that offensive line. They need somebody like him. Doesn't need to be an all-pro. He just needs to solidify the line. He needs to be the leader. They lost that leadership when Ben left. They need it back. They need a constant, someone that's going to be there every day. That's going to help out Peter Skoronski, and then that's going to help out the left tackle.
TD is on the line. Teron Davenport. TD, appreciate you for joining us. We were just kind of breaking down the biggest reason, the blame pie, so to speak, for the Titans' loss yesterday. If you had to point to one thing or things, what would you say was the reason why the Titans lost in overtime to the Texans yesterday?
I think a big thing was the inability to run the football and the inability to stop it. And that's always been their formula for winning, right? Doing those things, and neither one of them happened. Devin Singletary, he looked like, an all-world running back, and they made an all-world running back look very average yesterday. So I think that's really what it came down to. And the all-world running back I'm talking about is Derrick Henry.
That's the frustrating thing, that this Titans defense has made 2 running backs look like all-world running backs in Zach Moss earlier this season in Indianapolis, and then Devin Singletary yesterday. Another thing that I'm just absolutely crushed about or frustrated about is this offensive line gets another quarterback hurt, Will Levis, with a sprained ankle. If Levis can't go on Sunday against the Seahawks, who do you think should be the quarterback for the Titans?
Yeah, it pretty much has to be Ryan Tannehill. I don't see any reason why you would go any other way. And D-Mase said it earlier, it could get ugly if Willis is out there, and that could really end up having the season go even worse, right? And on an even worse note. So I think Tannehill should be the guy. You could keep the offense as similar to what Levis has done as possible. I mean, Tannehill could still push the ball down the field and do the things, and that'll be a good opportunity for him to showcase what he has left. So, whether it be Atlanta or wherever he should end up going, he'll have some good film probably out there to help him up.
Now, TD, what did you think of Traylon Burks yesterday? I thought that they involved him early. It looked like they were intentional in trying to involve him in the game, and he showed up big. What did you? And then off of that, what did you see in the second half? Was it all the offensive line why they couldn't do some of the things that they were doing in the first half?
Yeah, I think it was mostly the offensive line. And, I mean, there were some times like they got away from the play action. And, a lot of people, they don't realize that, when you go, because you mentioned play action, they say, oh, well, the offensive line is getting killed. Okay, yes, but, when you go play action, that also implements max protection, right? So, that gives you an opportunity to get more protection and have those longer developing routes actually develop and happen. So I think that was the thing that they got away from it. There were a couple times like they ran that play action strike route and they hit that. But, I mean, that was a big issue and just total breakdowns in protection. I mean, you had guys up front just getting blown away. The interior pressure was coming and they were blitzing sometimes. I mean, you look at the Will Levis where he got injured. Desmond King came on a blitz. And it was just collectively just too much.
Now, did you get a chance to talk with Will Levis? I know Coach Vrabel spoke of it a little bit, the pass that got intercepted. And, you see on that pass that Traylon Burks was streaking down the sidelines wide open. And from my experience, when you run a play like that, you take a peek at the deep route quickly. And if it's not open, then you come to the deep out. But if it's there, you take it. Did Will walk you through it if you were able to talk to him? Or what did you see?
Yeah, he actually did give a very good explanation of that. And he talked about how, that corner, he thought that corner was going to stay with that route. But he saw him come off of Burks. And actually, that's ended up being the guy that picked off Hopkins. So, it was one of those things where he had an alert. And he thought, he was going to go one place, and then it was almost like after he threw it, he realized, like, oh, I should have went uptown. You know what I mean? And that's basically what happened. And I asked Mike Vrabel about that today, and he touched on it as well. And, he just said you got to be more careful with the football, and he's right. And, it ended up being an interception. And, there's a couple throws that Levis obviously will want back, right? You had the one, on that deep crosser to Hopkins that, he put it on his back shoulder. And, it's tough. A lot of people don't understand how tough it is to be running full speed one way and have to turn your body backwards and catch the football. And by the way, there's somebody bearing down on you trying to murder you when you catch it. So you had that one. He has to give him a better ball on that. And then you also the post route. I mean, he underthrew it, and he admitted underthrowing it, and, he puts that on the money, and Hopkins scores.
Yeah, so many. In a game like that goes to overtime, you look at so many plays like that could have been a little turn or twist that could have been the difference. Let me ask you about this, Teron. Tajay Spears, I coming off of the game he had on Monday, and especially given the fact that throughout the game, it was so clear that the Texans set out to just take Derrick Henry out of the game, and they neutralized him. They were doing a good job of that. I just was surprised they didn't find a way to give Spears a shot a little bit more in one form or another.
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
Were you surprised that they didn't find a way to get Spears involved a little bit more, especially in the passing game, only one target?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. He had 9 touches or 10 touches overall. And, I definitely agree that they should have gotten him involved more, especially when you look at how, the offensive line is getting beat quickly. Some of those routes out of the backfield, the quick ones, and even having him, motion out wide or anything like that, you would think they would have gotten him involved more. I meant to ask about that. I'll have to follow up when we have Tim Kelly on Thursday. I mean, by that point, it'd be so far extended away from the game, but I'm curious what his thoughts were as far as like why they didn't do that. So I agree with you 100%.
And even as a runner, he's a different type of runner, and maybe they're not keying on him as much, and he did run the ball more effectively, just relatively speaking. Is that a game where it's just time to take the next chapter and find out what he can do as more of a featured guy? I'm curious how they use him in the last few games as well, and that sort of leads me to the other part of the equation. And Teron, you were big on this after the game yesterday. Derrick Henry kind of reflecting and looking long-term and wondering what's next. And you can't blame him for, in that moment, especially after he had one of the lower productive levels that I've ever seen him have, that he would feel that way. But it does make you wonder what's next.
Yeah, no, you do wonder that. And just to be clear, he doesn't feel like his time is coming to an end. Like that's not what he was saying when I asked the question. But he did admit to, thinking about, how there is limited time left in this season and how it could be, and that's something that you have to wonder, right, when you look at the fact that there's 2 more home games, there's 3 games overall. This is a team where, Henry has 411 snaps, Tajay Spears has 410. So it's like 53% for each of them because, they're both on the field a lot at the same time.
Right.
And you have to wonder, you look at this offense. I forget off the top, how many attempts Levis had yesterday, but I know in just, his 6 or 7 games, he has 3 attempts of 39 or more, 38 or more. And for 2021, the week 6, Tannehill had 3 himself. So there is and obviously, there's different coordinators, but I mean, it does seem like there's a shift in how they're working the offense. So all of that being considered, good possibility that Henry isn't brought back. I think it would be wise to bring him back, but there's definitely a possibility that he's not.
Yeah, the cap figure, the money is a big part of it. What did you make of Mike Vrabel's discussion of the question of what is Derrick Henry right now? Can he still dominate? What did you make of how he answered that question?
I mean, listen, I don't. Like, he's not going to get up there and say that he's not an elite back anymore. Like he's not going to get up there and say that. And I don't believe that Derrick Henry isn't still an elite back, to be honest with you. But I mean, look, the fact of the matter is he ran the ball 16 times. He got hit behind the line of scrimmage 9, right? And just like he said, they have to get him to that second level. They have to, give him an opportunity to get going. He's not a start and stop kind of guy. So that right there, is fact, in my opinion. So I think he answered it correctly.
Now, TD, the defensive line, obviously no Simmons, no Pico. We know what happened with T.R. Tart. Do you think that they should have tried to at least work it out for the remainder of the season with T.R. Tart? Because I think this is going to be the beginning, at least for the remainder of the season, of a defensive line that is not going to be able to stop the run. Because now you're missing your 3 big bodies that were not only, good pass rushers at time, and I'm talking mainly of Simmons, but you're talking about run stuffers in the middle of that defense. Now you don't have them.
Yeah, I think, when you check out Kyle Pecco, he's quietly, had a pretty solid season. So, yeah, that's definitely something that you have to consider. So I think when you look at that, Tart, like they need to find a way to, Quentin Bohannon, you got Jaleel Johnson. They're going to have to find a way to get something out of those guys. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do, because you look at a lot of those runs yesterday, it was from the interior, right? Between the tackles, and that's an area where they've typically been strong. But, when you take away those top guys, it's become a weakness, and Azeez Al-Shire has to be behind them and make the plays. And, I mean, he had 13 tackles yesterday, and, that's just kind of showing you, like, the running backs are getting to the second level, because not all of his tackles were for a loss or even at the line of scrimmage. So that's a problem.
TD Teron Davenport is with us. TD, Paul Kaharski reported on Friday that the Titans were moving on from Teair Tart. What was your reaction when you heard the news, and what do you make of the timing and the decision to move on from Teair Tart?
Yeah, the timing is kind of crazy. Just, knowing there's 3 games left. And
crazy.
Teair Tart was already frustrated about the snaps. I think it was like 43% of the snaps he was playing, or even a lower percentage than that, like 30-something. But I just don't know that was the best way to go about getting a new deal. And, I think he's going to mess around and be on another type of deal like that, where it's like a 1-year deal, and you got to show whoever signs you that you're trustworthy and that you could, play and fit the scheme, all that good stuff. So I was surprised by it. A little bit more also, because I asked Mike Vrabel about that on Friday, about Teair Tart, and he just said that, don't look too much into it. So I was like, okay, I guess he's good, but the questions about the effort and the attitude, that's something that has been brewing in that locker room for a bit. And it wasn't just like coach to player, it was player to player also. So it's something that, just kind of hit ahead, and here we are.
Teron, what did you think should be? You've covered a lot of different teams. You've watched a lot of different teams. When a team is out, there were some questions today by a lot of different members of the media of, now that you're out of it, does your mindset change a little bit on decisions you make with players? Tannehill will be one. You've already answered that one. I'm curious about Simmons and how you feel about that, because I can make the argument that even though he may really want to play, even if he's less than 100%, he wants to be out there, but you got a big investment in him, and is it the best thing to put him out there if he's not 100%?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know fully what to make of that, honestly. I mean, it's just, this team has 3 games left, and it's one of those things where, like, you gotta see what you have, right? And I think, you look at some of these players, like Caleb Murphy is a guy I think should be able to suit up, so you see what you have in him. For me, like, it's just evaluation. You got to see what's left on the roster. That's the main thing.
So what about Simmons specifically?
Well, I mean, I think, when you look at Simmons, how bad is the knee, right? I mean, the good thing is it's not the left knee that he hurt before, but, I mean, is it ligament damage? Is it, something that if he plays on it, it'll get worse? And you are out of the playoffs, so what full benefit, would bringing him back have? And I'm sure he wants to play because obviously, he loves football. So you just got to weigh that out. I think that's really the main thing. But that's why I say, it might be good to get some of these younger guys, see what you got in them, because, I mean, they're probably going to have to get a D tackle in the draft, so knowing that, see what level of investment you have to put in that position during the offseason by seeing what you have in those guys like Bohannon, like Johnson, et cetera.
D tackle in addition to left tackle, the right tackle, receiver, corner. You got a long wish list in this offseason. But last question from me, TD. I can't help but think that losing to the Houston Texans, especially when you're wearing those uniforms, hurts probably a little bit more for Amy Adams-Strunk to lose to that team in that fashion, wearing those uniforms. Mike Vrabel walking in with the Bum Phillips cowboy hat. It's probably embarrassing for Amy Adams-Strunk. Do you expect any changes to be made, maybe a reaction to the embarrassment that Amy Adams-Strunk might be feeling after that loss?
No, I think because if it was going to happen, it would have happened today. I mean, you look at, what they've done in the past as far as like the one move with Craig Aukerman. It's definitely embarrassing for them. I get it, but I think they're doing a good job of not being overreactionary and making, off-the-cuff moves. But at the same time, look, John Robinson got fired on a Tuesday last year, and none of us expected that to be the case, and that's what happened. So nothing was surprising.
Yeah, that one was totally out of left field. TD, Teron Davenport, appreciate you as always. Enjoy the rest of your week, TD, and we appreciate you for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate you. You guys take it easy. And I'm sure my daughters will appreciate you because we're in a grocery store and they know I'm on the phone and I'm not able to tell them, hey, $20 bag or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Watch out also for the sugar cereals, Teron. I'm sure we got some Lucky Charms, Apple Jacks in there trying to sneak it by Dad.
The Reese's Puffs just fell into the grocery cart. There's nothing they could have done about it. All right, TD, enjoy the rest of your grocery trip, and we'll chat with you soon.
All right, take it easy. Enjoy the game tonight, too.
All right, thanks. You too, TD. TD, he is the absolute best. Coming up next, we'll react to what TD had to say there. We'll get back into your phones. Plus, Willy alluded to some comments that Derrick Henry made post-game. What do we make of it? What do we make of the future of Derrick Henry and the Titans? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and The Game Nashville app. Appreciate TD for joining us in the last segment, as he always does on Mondays at 1 o'clock. Derrick Henry made some comments post-game yesterday that I thought were very interesting. And I know that when he said those things, a lot of Titans fans kind of maybe threw up the red flag, depending on where you are with Derrick Henry. Because I know that there is one portion of the fan base that's like, move on from him. You don't need to overpay for a 30-year-old running back. And there's the other portion of the fan base that's saying, no, it's Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry. You can't move on from Derrick Henry, especially when you have a young quarterback. I want to get into his thoughts, what Derrick Henry said post-game, what we think about it. But first, I want to get into your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eric is on the line, has been waiting very patiently. What's up, Eric?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, guys, I'm going to throw out an interesting hypothetical question at the end when I get through, but just few observations on yesterday's game. It's like, and Derrick Henry, I'll say this, he may have lost a step, guys, but he actually had no shot to hit the holes, get open, when it seems like most of the time there are like 2 or 3 guys in the backfield to tackle him.
Yeah.
16 carries for 9 yards, and it's just unbelievable. And also, again, in opportune times, the mistakes with penalties, Levis getting sacked 7 times. Interesting thing is, I don't know if we won the game, but it's the second straight home game. We missed an extra point going to overtime, lose both of those games. Maybe we win in regulation. If we win in regulation, guys, we're 7-7, tied with the Texans and the Colts at 7-7. We're still a shot to playoffs, and I'm wondering if all this discussion is going on. But anyway, guys, my interesting question is this. I do believe Mike Vrabel will be back as head coach next year, but I want to play out another interesting scenario that could happen. Of course, the Falcons yesterday lost to the Carolina Panthers 9-7. There's been a lot of rumblings about Arthur Smith's offense down in Atlanta, and some think he could be fired this year, at the end of the year. Is there any scenario, and I'm not saying we should fire Tim Kelly, that you think Michael Vrabel would reach out, bring Arthur Smith back to the staff, put him on the offensive staff, if that does happen? And like I said, I'm not saying fire Tim Kelly, guys. Just want to get your thoughts on that. Guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for your call, Eric. D-Mase, would you like to start us off?
There's no way on God's green earth that they will do that. And I know Eric is saying don't fire Tim Kelly, and there's no reason why you should fire Tim Kelly. But over the years, when Vrabel has brought in guys like that, it's because he's going to make a change. He's looking to make a change, and he's going to give you one more year. He's going to give Tim Kelly at least 2 years to get this thing right. And again, if you don't give Tim Kelly talent, I don't care how good of a play caller you are, it's not going to work.
Well, look at what Arthur Smith's offense looks like in Atlanta with not a great amount of talent.
Absolutely. So bring it in.
What do you mean
here.
Yesterday? It was awesome. Whoops.
No, it wasn't.
Those tickets were going for 45 cents.
It wasn't
45 cents.
I'm not sure I would have paid the 45 cents.
That's a waste of 45 cents.
Yes, the weather was so bad, though.
Yeah,
Did
it
you
was
see? Like,
raining
how could you? I looked in the stands. I'm like, those people have. They should be awarded. They should get whatever they want, like free food, free beer, anything you want from the concession
Everything
stand
should have been free
for sitting through that. A 9-7 game in a driving cold rain. That is the worst.
Brutal.
And
how many people? Did they count how many people were actually
Carolina
in there?
jerseys
Over under
were
14.
horrible.
I'm going to take the under.
It was unreal.
I hated those jerseys, Carolina jerseys. I hated them. At first, I didn't even know who it was. Oh, that's Carolina. I'm like, ugh, those are ugly.
And so is the product that they have on the field.
The product
is just as ugly as
no
the
wonder
jersey.
they wore those ugly ass jerseys
And the
because the
Falcons
product on the
lost.
field is bad. Yeah, they end up winning. Carolina did, but the problem with this offense isn't Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly may be one of the bright spots on this offense. Well, he is one of the bright spots when you're just talking about the offense in general, coordinators, players. He's a bright spot on this offense. He's not a guy that is hampering the offense. We thought Todd Downing was hampering the offense, holding the offense back because it didn't seem like he was innovative. It didn't seem like he was ahead of plays. It seemed like he was always chasing. I don't feel that way with Tim Kelly. I think Tim Kelly is a good offensive coordinator, but he has nothing to work with. Again, he doesn't have the offensive line. It's horrible. And listen to Vrabel when he says certain things. I think people, sometimes you can gloss over wording. I always make sure I listen to Vrabel, especially certain things. I listen to his wording. I think the question was asked about the offense and why were they sputtering. He said, listen, quarterback has to, read. He has to read the defense a little bit better. He had to make right choices with the ball, protect the ball. The offensive line has to do their job. Receivers have to, get off the line quickly, in their routes fast. He doesn't say things like that just to be throwing them out there. There's a reason he ties all of that together, because in an offense that relies on timing, if you're not getting off the ball, if you don't have the foot speed or the ingenuity in the sense of trying to get from point A to point B as fast as you possibly can, if you don't have the foot speed, then you have to do you have to do something different. But they just don't overall. They don't have the foot speed at the wide receiver position to do some of the things from a stretch the field standpoint. That's why Vrabel throws those little words in there. They need to get off the line of the scrimmage faster. The offensive line needs to do this. We all know the offensive line is a problem. But he knows it's a problem, but he also knows that when I'm watching film, these receivers ain't running down. They don't look like they're running down the field fast. They're not getting down there fast.
Why is that?
The foot speed.
They're just not fast enough?
They're
not good enough?
Listen, if you're going to have D-Hop, this is why I wanted Treylon Burks I want them to feature Treylon Burks so much. D-Hop, we know who D-Hop is. We know he's a Hall of Famer. I know that. I watched him his whole career. But Treylon is the guy that's going to make the offense go. I don't know why people kept saying, no, it's going to be D-Hop. No, it's going to be. Damn it, I played the position. I understand the position. When I got older, I needed that fast guy on the other side. That's why it worked. So even as I started to get older, I had Drew Bennett. He was able to get down the field, big body, Kevin Dyson. Then they took away some of that pressure of me having to do everything. Treylon Burks was supposed to be that guy. I think he still can be. And this offense, from a passing standpoint, is only going to thrive if they get that. If they don't get it, they're going to continue to be a lackluster, slowish kind of offense. D-Hop's going to make big plays. He is. That's just him. But nobody fears them going down the field. They may make a couple of catches here, deep ball. I love Nick Westbrook-Keenan. Moore, he's been a godsend for them because he's been able to do some of those things. But if you want consistency down the field, why do you think last year look at Baltimore Ravens and this year look at Baltimore Ravens offense? They got speed now. They got Zay Flowers that can stretch the damn field that opens everybody else up. When we got D-Hop, everybody, we're good. We don't need – no, yeah, you do. Treylon Burks needs to be that guy.
I wondered why he didn't get the ball more yesterday. He got the
you
long
can
ball
blame
early.
the offensive line. I was looking like, man, this is what I want to see. He's proven to people that he can catch the ball. Now all these people need to shut their damn mouths about him. You give him an opportunity, he's going to catch the ball. He's going to drop a pass or two. I expect that. But if you get him involved in the offense, he's going to show you why he was your first round pick. But if you don't do it to him, you can't come up to me and complain about a guy when you're not giving him an opportunity. That's why I don't listen to when they start talking about Treylon Burks. Man, go on, miss me with that.
I was curious because they hit him twice down the field early in the game. And by the way, I did get my ticket to the bank on that. I called that on Friday, looking for 3 catches.
3 on the money.
But from then on, he had the 2 early ones, and he was not targeted again until later, where it was a designed short throw where he got it was a little wide receiver screen. And I know there were all kinds of issues with protection, but from the time he catches the second pass, there was a long time, a lot of reps where he's not throwing the ball. I was curious about that. Like, I'm thinking, you got him going.
The offensive line, it had to be.
Yeah, and of course, there's the one missed throw we've talked about a lot where he is open down the field. But again, though, I'm looking at that as a step forward. He's gone from on the field invisible to on the field, he's out there for more plays, still kind of invisible, to now he at least had an impact on the game. Is there a step forward or two in the last 3 games. That would be the key, because it's not as much what he does this year. It is what is he going to be next year and beyond. So there's progress there, even though it's not perfect.
It was good to see him involved. There was the Will Levis's interception. It was bad. Bad. And he was doing what D-Mase, you've talked a lot about, of developing some of the bad habits. I think he was looking for D-Hop and was just trying to feed him the ball no matter what. That was a bad decision, a bad throw, and a bad interception. But Treylon Burks, at least to me, looked to be wide open. And that continues to bring up my concern about Treylon Burks of why isn't he getting the ball? Why did Will Levis overlook Treylon Burks to feed the ball to D-Hop and put the ball within harm's way?
Because now you're conditioned to, this is where I'm going. Yeah, this is where I'm going because in weeks prior, it seemed like y'all were not, I'm not going to say purposely because I don't think you were doing it purposely, but he wasn't a primary in what, it didn't seem like, let's just say that. It didn't seem like he was a primary in what you were doing from a passing standpoint. The in and out and, him just running dummy routes and go routes and street routes. It's like, no, let him run routes. The kid can run routes. Let him play foot. Mike Heimerdinger, the late Mike Heimerdinger used to tell me all the time, just be a football player. Just be what you see. Read what you see. It's not complicated. Don't try to overcomplicate it. It's simple. This game is simple. What you see, based upon what you see, run it. And that's what we did. We ran what we were supposed to run, but hey, if they jumped in this coverage and did this, well, maybe we improvised a little bit. But as long as Steve knew, then we were good. Or Neil O'Donnell knew, we were good. Let Treylon just go out and be a football player. They haven't allowed him to do that. They haven't allowed him to just go out there and play, we're going to target you. We're going to get you the ball. It hadn't been that way. It was that way yesterday. Second half was different, and I think a lot of it had to do with the offensive line. But if you make him prove to you that he's not the guy, don't do it for him. Let him prove to you that he's not the guy. And it seems like they were doing it themselves rather than allowing him to do it.
But man, how frustrating is it that every conversation that we have about the offense today, really all season long, comes back to, but the offensive line is so bad.
Right.
Well, how much can you expect?
They're going
the
to
offensive
have
line
to
is so bad.
They're going to have to overcome it as best they can. And that's why I keep coming back to the same thing. I know the Oilers uniforms and having the lead and lose it, it's so frustrating. But I'm going to try as best I can to keep my eye on how is Burks progressing. Chig, another step forward yesterday.
Came up big again.
He had a nice game yesterday. That's not bad.
Got a little worried yesterday with Chig.
That's
the injury.
Yes,
Yeah.
but he's catching the ball when they're throwing to him. Thank goodness. Like I thought he was going the way of Ben Troop.
Leave my man Ben Troop alone, man.
He's a great guy. But man, he was frustrating to watch. But Chig looks like there's hope there. That's huge. So that's so important. Jalen Duncan, step back there. But Levis, okay, he's still showing me that the guy he's a competitor, and he's got a rocket of an arm. He's making throws that are like wow, and these are learning experiences that are going to make him better. Now, of course, we'll see how he deals with the injury. But to me, those are the big questions. And one of them that I know we're about to get into is what do you do with Derrick Henry next year? But it's a complicated question.
And it's frustrating too because you're right. You do want to look to the future. You want to know what you have in these young guys, Treylon Burks included. But again, it's okay. We think that he's good, but we don't know. We think Will Levis is the guy, and I feel confident in saying that Will Levis is at least your quarterback moving forward. But now he's hurt, and it's because of the offensive line. It always comes back to the O-line. Want to get into that coming up next. What Derrick Henry said after the game. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Derek, as you sit in there and take your time getting dressed before you come in here, knowing 2 more home games, you don't know what the future is. Do you ever stop and just, I know you try to stay in the moment, but do you ever stop and just think like, man, it could be over?
Yeah, definitely today. You had that feeling. We had hope of kind of slipping in there and then being eliminated. There's 3 games left. I've been here my whole career. Definitely want to go out strong, which that isn't the case. But just try to give them all these last 3 games and leave it all on the field.
That was Derrick Henry post-game yesterday, and TD tweeted out this clip. He said, this is the first time that I have heard Derrick Henry talk about the future between himself and the Titans, and that's true. Derrick Henry is always the guy. Doesn't want to talk about his contract, doesn't want to talk about himself and his future. He just wants to talk about the team. The only other time that I've ever heard Derrick Henry bring up a contract is when somebody was asking him about it. Maybe this was last offseason, and he said, hey, everybody wants to get a raise. That's the only other time that I have heard that. He's not the kind of person to do that. So what did we make of what Derrick Henry had to say about his future with the Titans?
I thought it was significant. I think he realizes, number one, he's coming off a game where, nobody shuts him down to that level. I mean, and so he had to be really frustrated with just the results, right? And not all of it was his fault. There are times where he gets the ball and the 2 guys are on him right away, all of that stuff.
20 touches, 9 yards. Oof.
And he knows that this loss eliminates them. That's a space that he hasn't been in a long, long time, where, the next 3 games, they have nothing that they can do to get into the postseason. I also think he has to have known in the back of his mind that there are certain things that are out of your control, even as a great player. And he's at that stage of his career. He's going to have to negotiate the next deal. Mm-hmm. And he's used to being in one level of salary, and there might have to be some creativity to keep him here. There may be a market outside that he's got to look at. I just think he's aware of all those things. And some of it is going to be what do the Titans want, right? There is a scenario where the Titans say, look, Derek, you've been awesome. We're going to put your number up on this Ring of Honor someday, but the next chapter is going to be somewhere else for you. That wouldn't be the craziest thing if that's what they decided to do. I don't know. And he doesn't know. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where that answer's coming from. That's my take anyway.
Well, it's just a guy that's on an expiring contract, team's not doing well, and he understands that, there's a high possibility that I won't be back here next year.
Yeah.
And, it may not be – it's not a knock on him. It's just the team may be going in another direction, and eventually, like all players, you have to sort of move on from that player, that era, because I think he's the last of that era, honestly. When they got rid of Byard, it was he and Byard. I think now he's the last of that group.
Yeah.
So – He sees the writing on the wall, and he knows more than likely that he will be on another team. So if I'm the Titans, I mean, I would offer him. I would allow him to test free agency. I would allow him to test free agency. I think you got to give him that because you don't know what type of team you're going to be next year. I would allow him to test free agency, but I would have a 2-year deal waiting on him. Like, if you want to take this 2-year deal, it's going to be, it's not going to be a lot. It may be $3 million per year. 2 years, $8 million, give him signing bonus, however you slice it up. Or it can be a little bit more, but, the first year, you give him a good signing bonus. Second year, it might be astronomical numbers, but you don't expect for him to be on the team the next following year. So they're going to put a deal. Well, I think they're going to put a deal in front of him, but saying, hey, go test the market, see what you can get, and if you like our deal, it's here waiting for you. It's a 2-year deal. You want to take it, take it. If you don't, then go somewhere else where you think you can, extend your career.
Something that jumped out at me was something that Mike Vrabel said when he was talking about Derrick Henry today. Mm-hmm. And it sounds to me like Jared is going to be going into this some in his show, but he said he's a unique kind of runner. I think we all know that that's the case. And if your offense is evolving and you're going to try to go about it a little different way. They're averaging 18.3 points per game.
Yes.
They averaged 17 and a half
more
last year.
from last year.
They're struggling.
Improvement.
They're struggling to find ways to get to another level. He's going to be a year older, and you heard Mike Vrabel describe it, right? You've got to get him space early. That if you get to him early, and they talked about this throughout the day yesterday, if you make him break stride, if you get him to stutter step, he is way more tackleable than he used to be. So you got to get him to that next level with speed, and then he can still do his things. But that is a unique style. Tyjae Spears is a different kind of runner. I can see a tandem of Tyjae Spears and somebody else that maybe you could make it happen for a lot less money with a different formula. So that's the thing that I think Derrick Henry, and how many other teams around the league want to look at Derrick Henry and the unique style that he runs at and said, that's the way we want to run the ball. Because in this era, there aren't many teams doing it that way. Especially if he's not at the top level of his game anymore.
I'm sure there are several owners or GMs across the league on good teams that say we could be a Derrick Henry away from competing for a Super Bowl. I think that is the truth. Whether he gets the ball 20 times a game or if he gets the ball 6 times a game, there's going to be enough people out there that believe they are a Derrick Henry away from being competitive.
And can he be a good role player? That's the other thing with this old adage. The more he gets the ball,
the better
he gets.
I think
so.
Like December has always been his month.
Can he give you 8 effective carries every game?
He can be a good role player, but he has to have an offensive line in front of him to allow him to do that. There was one play within the game that he ended up cutting back, and he had to make this cut. But because he's such a big back and old school back, that it took him like 3. It was like then turn. Whereas Tyjae Spears is just boom boom go. Again, I think Derrick Henry is still one of the best runners in the National Football League. He is, but he needs a little bit more now than he did 2 years ago to become that effective runner that he used to be. And not many people, either they don't want to see it, they don't know football, or they're just like, man, I love Derrick Henry so much that I don't want to let him go. And I get it. I understand that part. But eventually he's going to always be, that guy. His name's going to eventually be on those ring honors. I promise. I'm pretty sure of that. So he's always going to be, this guy for the Tennessee Titans. But they're moving past that now.
I think that clip to me was just more so a reality check, probably to a lot of Titans fans. That we can talk about it, Titans fans can talk about it, but hearing it from Derrick Henry himself, the guy that never talks about his contract, the guy that never talks about himself is talking about it, that's a reality check that Derrick Henry is also thinking about doing what's best for him, whether it's here or not. That's going to do it for us today. Stillman & Company's up next. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Be love and love on your people. Peace.